Hey guys, hope everything's going well. All right, so today I wanted to talk about the generational top that some of the Elliott wave theory guys that I follow have been talking about. Some of them, Avi Gilbert, and then people that he works for or that work for him. I think one of the guy's name is Zachary Maines, and I've been following them for quite some time. And basically, it's using sentiment and technical analysis, and then they talk about fractals. Now, learning more about this or talking more about this in future videos would be pretty good. I'm not a technician, but I do follow them. And I also follow other individuals as well. I follow Martin Armstrong. People say, "Oh, Martin Armstrong went to jail." Yes, he did go to jail, but he has a cycle of pi, and he's talking about some potential headwinds in 2024. Elliott wave theory guys looking at trouble 2023, 2024. And yes, we have volatility right now. I think the next month may be a little challenging, as I mentioned in my previous video about September tax collections, and also you have the rate hikes, right? So there's going to be fear in the marketplace because they're going to raise rates, but ultimately, I believe they're going to pause the increase in interest rates. And this is not the 1980s where they could jack up rates like Paul Volcker did. This is a much different environment. I think they're just trying to save face right now, manage to get inflation under control for the time being, and then let the easy money flood the system. Could I be wrong? Yeah, but this is what I think is going to be happening, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Federal Reserve pivots. And in addition to that, the Federal Reserve pivoting, this will juice up the markets, in my opinion, in the next few years. But the generational top, right? This is what the Elliott Wave guys are talking about. So I'm quite interested in seeing what these guys have to say about that. And I also listened to David Brady. He's a technician as well. He's a retired trader, fund manager, etc. And I was listening to an interview today, and he was talking about pretty much he sees trouble in 2023, 2024. And this is what the Elliott Wave guys are looking at. And I want to keep an open mind. I listen to all types of people. Like me, I follow the Austrian school, and it's just the boom bust cycle, right? You keep interest rates too low for too long, you get a crash, right? And right now, I'm just looking at the yield curve. Yield curve is still positive. So, in my opinion, the economy hasn't burst yet, but we're still going to get volatility, right? And we're in that season of fall time where volatility tends to go up. Today's day in the market was quite crazy. But if you're looking at what guys like David Brady are talking about, he also talked about the WEF and the reset. And he said that he read papers, I think in 2020, and these guys are talking about acid bubbles that they're seeing in 2023 to 2025. So I'm looking at that. The central planners and all that, they're looking at it based on their models, 2023, 2025. So generational top. So how could you say a generational top? Well, you have to remember that markets run in cycles. So if you look at what happened in the 1920s, the market tanked, right? And 1930s was a deflationary depression, and the market seemed to have bottomed out during World War II, from my understanding. But you have to remember from what the 1950s to the 1980s, the stock market basically went nowhere, right? And there were times where they went up, where they went down, etc. And then you had Reagan, you had the Federal Reserve raise interest rates, and then they started lowering interest rates and tax cuts. You had the boom. Now we're at a point, okay, interest rates are still very low, historically speaking. And all the time the markets have been juiced up by easy money now, lowering interest rates. Now, what's going to happen, whether it's 2024 or 2033, some cycles that I'm looking at, what happens? I believe we're going to have some sort of repeat of the Great Depression. Now, you have the Federal Reserve, you have central banking, so it may not be as bad as the 1930s, but still, you have all of this debt in the system. You have trillions and trillions of debt, and you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together. The whole system is based on easy money and people going into debt, and that's not sustainable in the long run. And eventually it needs to correct, in my opinion, and it's going to happen, right? I would say from 2020 onwards, things have been crazy, and you could say that beforehand things were crazy. Our society, when I grew up in the 90s, it was Michael Jordan. Everyone got along with each other. Now it's a balkanized system, and balkanized countries, they tend to collapse. And then you add in all this debt. It's not a recipe for good news. I don't want to be negative here, but I'm just trying to be as unbiased as possible. So as we go through maybe 1 to 2 years of a bull market, everyone, even if they don't agree with me, just the best case scenario, get yourself out of debt as much as possible. That's what you got to do. Get multiple income streams, right? I have a full-time job. I get a little bit of AdSense through my sports card channel, not too much. Do some sports cards on the side, that I've speculated in. I also, through my wife's business, we sell items. So, that's the goal. Try to get multiple income streams, because things are going to be very challenging in the future, in my opinion, because cycles tend to repeat. Now, I'm not sure if that generational top is going to be 2024 or 2033, but it is going to happen if you are young in your working life. So you got to be prepared for this, in my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, this is a crackpot video and I'm wrong 100%, but cycles tend to repeat. And I've just noticed this. Things have been crazy. Okay? I don't remember society this balkanized when I was growing up. Yeah, there were things here and there, but not to this extent. I mean, you have to go back, to the 1960s to see the country that balkanized, but in the 1960s, the debt of the U.S. government was low. It only took one income to raise a family. Now it takes two incomes basically to raise a family. So that's why people are having less kids these days. But that's just something to note, guys. Like, everything is going up in value. College tuition, home prices, healthcare, is expensive. So this is not what it was back in the 1980s. It's a much different society. And sure, you could still move your way up the corporate ladder. You could still succeed in America. It's still the best country out there, but it's not what it used to be. So just, if you can, try to get multiple streams of income. Also, get yourself out of debt, because I believe that we are headed for a generational top, be it in a couple of years or in the next decade. So those are my thoughts, guys. I'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye.